The Bahamas says farewell to Sandy.
You're going to have sunny periods in between the feeder bands. And
another life claimed by the storm. The government travels to the Family Islands as cleanup in New Providence continues. The opposition weighs in on the storm.
And we're trying at this particular time to organize a plane.
Plus updates from all utility companies. I'm Nakia DeVoe, and this is NB12 Weekend. Joining us this Saturday for NB12's Weekend Edition. Tropical storm Sandy is slowly moving away from the Bahamas after it traveled up the archipelago, affecting all islands and even claiming lives. While forecasters continue to track Sandy as the storm moves away from us. Senior Deputy Director of the Department of Meteorology, Trevor Baston, explains where Sandy is headed next.
Hurricane force winds are still minimal, 75 miles per hour. And at present, Grand Bahama and Abaco are under tropical storm force winds. We do expect these tropical storm force winds, meaning winds between 40 miles per hour and 73 miles per hour, to continue over Grand Bahama and Abaco until about 8 p.m. this evening.
And while residents on New Providence may have experienced strong gusty winds last night, similar to those felt while Sandy was still nearby, Basden explains it was all expected as the outer bands of the storm beat down on us.
What happened is that, again, tropical storm force winds start at 40 miles per hour. However, we had sustained winds over New Providence at about oscillating between 30 miles per hour and 35. So therefore, the general public would have thought that, hey, listen, we are still under tropical storm conditions, but no, they were borderline, but below the 40-mile-an-hour winds. And also when we had some of the rain bands or the feeder bands from Sandy affecting us, then obviously in their minds they would have thought, say, listen, yeah, we're still under the conditions. But no, the Department of Meteorology were quite accurate with their forecast.
So what kind of weather can we expect over the next few days now that Sandy is moving out of the area?
You're going to have sunny periods in between the feeder bands, and with the feeder bands, cloudy conditions to overcast with rain probably heavy at times. And also we are looking at for Grand Bahama and Abaco for them to have more heavier rains until Sandy actually lifts and the tropical storm warnings are lifted.
According to computer models, Basden says the all clear for the entire Bahamas may be given as early as this evening. Well, Hurricane Sandy's death toll rose to 2 overnight after a man reportedly drowned in his home in Queens Cove, Grand Bahama. We'll have more details for you in a later newscast. Today, Prime Minister Perry Christie expressed sadness at the loss of another life. On Thursday, 66-year-old Timothy Fraser Smith fell to his death while reportedly attempting to fix a shutter on his Lyford Key home. Sandy also claimed lives in Jamaica, Cuba, and Haiti. Well, the Prime Minister began his tour of the islands of the Bahamas today to assess the damage caused by the storm. He visited Long Island and Cat Island, along with NEMA, the Red Cross, and several government ministers. There was some crop damage on Long Island and some flooding, but no major structural damage. Christie says that the government has to pay closer attention to building proper seawalls. Meantime, Minister of Agriculture V. Alfred Gray has pledged financial assistance to farmers. The Prime Minister says it is still too early for financial calculations. And as the government makes its rounds, the opposition is preparing to do the same. We spoke to Free National Movement leader Dr. Hubert Minnis today, who says he is a little disappointed that the government did not invite anyone from the opposition to accompany it to the Family Islands. Minnis says natural disaster relief should not be politicized.
We would have hoped that the government would, and I don't exclude them yet, but hope that if they're doing the tour of the island, since we still represent Bahamians, that they would be matured enough to invite us so that we can accompany them and see exactly what's going on.
But he says members of the opposition will not solely rely on the government to get them to the family islands. The FNM also plans to do its own assessments and bring relief to Bahamians. He said the government must move expeditiously to bring relief to Grand Bahamians who were misplaced due to flooding, adding that they have suffered enough.
We have not yet heard complete reports of all the family islands. We know what's happening in Grand Bahama. And we're trying at this particular time to organize a plane so that we can go and visit the various different family islands to see what we can do. Because as opposition, we don't just represent FNM, we represent the entire country, the entire Bahamas. And that as opposition, we are government invading. And therefore, it's essential for us not to just look at FNM, but as the country goes.
Dr. Minna says the opposition was pleased with the response of NEMA and various parties that were responsible for cleanup and restoration of service. However, he agreed with Prime Minister Christie, who yesterday said that the country's communications need to be upgraded.
You know that during hurricane, certain communication network would go down, and that's why you have satellite phones, etc., to try and deal with those appropriately. But whatever communication is available today, because technology improves every day, whatever communication is available today, because of our setup, we should have that present, because you want to ensure that each and every Bahamian is safe and they're informed as to what they need to do, the exact location of the hurricane, when it's arriving, etc., so that they can take the necessary precaution and deal with it appropriately.
And upon hearing reports of the damage to crops in Long Island, Minnis urged the government to follow through with its promise to assist farmers who lost crops or livestock. He says any government that believes in Bahamians would ensure that farmers get back on their feet as soon as possible. Well, activity on New Providence getting back to normal after Hurricane Sandy, as many motorists were out and about on the streets today. But according to Ministry of Works officials, the conditions of some roads are still posing a hazard as Sandy leaves the area. Christina McNeil has more in this report.
Flooding and the loss of communications or power still a major concern for residents affected by Hurricane Sandy throughout the Bahamas. But here on New Providence, motorists are being encouraged to heed all warnings as some roads are still severely damaged following Hurricane Sandy.
Yesterday, a gaping hole emerged along West Bay Street just east of the caves, causing that road to be temporarily closed. That portion of road has since reopened to allow traffic in one lane, but Acting Chief Engineer in the Ministry of Works, Bradley King, tells MB12 that there are still some areas of concern on New Providence that motorists should avoid if possible, including that area near the caves, the area of Sea Beach Estates, and Saunders Beach.
The seawall experienced extensive damage, and in fact moved to the point where the seawater was able to rush in and undermining the road. We've now taken some temporary measures in place. We're putting some temporary in place to minimize, to stop the bleeding, as it were, stop the erosion. And we've gotten where one lane is possible, so it's one lane traffic on that area. So we need to say motorists should proceed with caution. And of course, we're working on, after putting a temporary fix in place, to stable the situation, we will be working on the permanent fix, which will take much longer, I'm afraid. We started pumping the water away from the road as of 8 a.m. this morning. We expect that by this afternoon, perhaps late afternoon, thereabouts, it should be removed enough to make it possible. The sand has been cleared to the point where it is passable now, but there's still a lot of sand on the road. There's still the access. The contractor is removing sand from the parking lot still, but motorists are to proceed with caution because there's still some sand being blown about by the winds. So you can pass the area, but just proceed with caution.
A drive around New Providence today showed teams from the various utility companies working to restore service to areas ravaged by the storm. This as a portion of the Western Grove still remains underwater, though work crews could be seen pumping the flooded streets.
King says the Ministry of Works is working along with police to ensure proper lighting and signage near hazardous areas as darkness falls.
King says he drove around some parts of New Providence Friday night and noticed that some barricades had been blown down due to the gusty winds. However, he reminded motorists that they are there for everyone's safety.
Please, we will be working, of course, I'll be in touch with my colleague, the Royal Palm Police Force, to patrol the area as much as possible, but I want to appeal to the public. You see the yellow tape, you see the barriers, please do not remove the barriers. please don't drive over the barriers. They're there for your safety, and we appeal to you to work with us, and we'll get the situation up and running as soon as we possibly can.
King, however, was not able to say when work on the New Providence Road Improvement Project will resume now that Sandy is moving away from the Bahamas, but he cautioned residents to steer clear of any areas that may need work crews in the coming days.
Please, that area, those areas are dangerous. If you can at all avoid it, we encourage you to do so. If you have to pass, please use the single lane traffic, respect rules of the road, and everybody has to give and take a little bit, and hopefully we'll have it done and corrected, or at least made passable to a point where some degree of normalcy can be achieved as soon as possible.
All residents are also being warned to avoid flooded areas and downed power lines until workers can assess the damage. Reporting for NB12, I'm Christina McNeil.
And in other news, police have captured the man they believe is behind the shooting death of 76-year-old Viola Mae Smith. A 30-year-old man of Udall Corner off East Street is in police custody tonight in connection with her murder. Police say the man was arrested around 7:55 this morning at a residence on Fleming Street. Smith, a great-grandmother, was shot to death at her Enia Street home Thursday night as tropical storm force winds pounded New Providence. Yesterday, her daughter, Frances Sands, told us that her bedridden mother was shot several times in the head by an unseen gunman who took aim at her through the bedroom window.